Smoke filled the ruined battlefield. Fires burned in broken alien ships. The ground was black and quiet, except for the soft wind moving through metal and ash. In the middle of the wreckage, something moved a soft twitch, almost UNNOTICEABLE dotted. Was her dot she lay on the cold ground, body broken, armor torn. Her legs didn't move. Her arms barely worked. She blinked slowly, staring up at the orange sky. Pain was everywhere, but she was still alive. That was the problem. Her name was Lyra. Once a proud warrior of the Ninth Army. She had fought with honor. She had led battles. But when the last explosion hit, her ship crashed and her body stopped listening. Her spine was damaged. Her own people had checked her once, then left to them. She was a useless burden now. Survive. If you can, her commander had said before walking away. No medics, no rescue, just silence. Now she lay alone. No food, no water, and death slowly crawling closer. She closed her eyes. Maybe it was better this way. The wild beasts would come at night. The enemy, the humans, might still be around. She would die soon. It was fine. There was no hope. Then she heard it. Footsteps. They were slow but steady. Metal crunched under boots. Her eyes opened slightly. A shadow moved between the wrecked parts of a Nithan tank. Was it one of her kind? No. It was human. She had seen images of them before. Two-legged, soft-skinned creatures, but dangerous. Smart and fast. She had fought them once. She had lost. This one was tall, covered in dirty armor, holding a weapon in one hand and a scanner in the other. His helmet was off. His face was hard and focused. His name was Luke. He stopped when he saw her. For a moment, he didn't move. She stared at him, too weak to speak. Maybe he would shoot her. Maybe he would walk away like her people did. But he didn't. He knelt down beside her. "You're still breathing," he whispered to himself. Then louder, "Can you hear me?" She blinked once. That was all she could do. He looked around. There were burn marks on her back. Her armor was melted near her spine. She was clearly paralyzed. "Damn," he muttered. "They left you here." His voice wasn't angry. It was sad. He opened a small kit and pulled out a water pouch. Gently, he tilted her head and let a few drops touch her lips. She tried to swallow. It hurt, but she managed. Lyra didn't understand his words, but she felt something strange. The human was not acting like an enemy. He didn't kick her. He didn't laugh. He gave her water. "Don't move." "Not that you can," Luke said quietly. He pulled out a small scanner and checked her vitals. The screen showed weak readings, but she was stable. He sat beside her for a few seconds, thinking. Then he did something that shocked her. He smiled. "Don't worry," he said. "You're not dying here." He took off his bag and set it beside her. Then he began clearing space around her body, careful not to cause more pain. Every small touch was slow and gentle. She watched him through tired eyes. No one had touched her like that since her injury. When night came, the wind got colder. Luke built a small fire between two metal panels to hide the smoke. He covered her with a heat blanket from his suit. Then he sat with his back against a rock, weapon in hand. Lyra stared at the stars. What was this? Why was a human soldier helping her? She didn't know if it was kindness or madness, but for the first time since the crash, she didn't feel fear. She felt something else. Hope. As the fire crackled softly and shadows danced across her face, the broken warrior slept not in fear, but in peace, and the human soldier watched the darkness, making sure nothing came close. Tomorrow would bring danger. Tomorrow might bring death, but tonight the broken warrior was not alone. Asterisk morning came with gray light and quiet air. The battlefield looked colder now. The fires were gone. Only smoke rose in thin lines toward the clouds. Lyra opened her eyes slowly. Her body still didn't move, but something was different. She was still alive. She turned her head with effort. The human soldier was awake, sitting nearby. His armor was scratched, his eyes alert. He looked tired but focused. When he noticed her awake, he gave a small nod. "You made it through the night," he said. She didn't understand the words, but his tone was soft, calm, not like the voices of her people who had shouted orders, not like the enemies she had imagined. This human was different. Luke stood and walked over to her. His movements were careful. No sudden steps. He knelt again and checked her pulse. Then he looked at her face. "You're lucky," he said. "Real lucky." She blinked once, the only answer she could give. Then came something strange. He reached out and gently wiped dust from her cheek. His fingers were warm. His glove was off. She flinched, not from fear, but from surprise. Why would he touch her like that? The warriors of her race never showed kindness. They only touched to heal in silence, or to push forward in battle. No one had touched her gently in weeks. Maybe months. Luke saw the way her eyes reacted and smiled again. "It's okay," he said. "I'm not here to hurt you." He looked around at the wreckage. "I don't know if my extraction is coming. Comms are jammed. I should leave you." That's what command would say. He looked back at her. "But I'm not doing that." He pulled out a ration bar and broke a piece. Holding it to her lips, he waited patiently as she slowly opened her mouth. The food was dry, but it tasted like survival. Lyra had never been fed like this. She wasn't a child. She was a warrior. Or at least, she used to be. But now helpless and forgotten. It felt like the first real meal in a lifetime. Later, Luke walked off to scout the nearby hills. She lay still, listening to distant sounds, birds, rustling wind, and now and then something heavier moving through the trees. When he returned, he looked more tense. "Something's out there," he said, "and it's not friendly." He started working fast. From pieces of broken ships and metal cables, he built a sled. It had wheels made from old drone casings and a support rail padded with old armor. It was rough, but it would hold her. Lyra watched in silence. Was he really planning to carry her? No one had done that before. When the sled was ready, Luke gently lifted her. His arms were strong. She didn't feel like dead weight in his grasp. She felt human, alive, important. Her head rested on his chest as he lowered her into the sled. For the first time, she heard his heartbeat. Steady, strong, warm. He secured her body with soft straps, careful not to press on her damaged spine. Then he spoke. Again, slower this time. "I'm Luke," he said, pointing at himself. "Luke." He repeated it twice, tapping his chest. Then he pointed at her. She hesitated. "Myra," she whispered. It wasn't her full name, but it was close enough in human tongue. He nodded. "Myra, all right." That moment, simple as it was, changed. Something inside her. He knew her name now. He called her by it. That meant she mattered. She wasn't a body left behind. She was Myra. A name. A person. A soul. He took the sled's rope and began pulling her through the wreckage. It was slow. Hard. The terrain was broken and rough. But Luke didn't stop. Not once. Wild sounds echoed through the hills. Growls. Fast movement. Something was hunting. But Luke kept walking. And Myra, lying there broken, watched his back. If anyone attacked, he would defend her. Why? She didn't know. But her heart felt a new kind of fire. This human, this stranger, was different from anything she had known. He Wasn't her enemy anymore. He was her only light in the dark. Asterisk. The sled creaked as Luke dragged it over rocks and debris. Myra lay still, her body wrapped in the soft armor blanket. Each bump sent a dull ache through her spine, but she didn't complain. She couldn't. Instead, she watched the man who walked. In front of her, his back was straight. His boots were worn. He grunted with every pull, sweat dripping from his neck, but he didn't stop. Not once. He kept moving forward, as if her life depended on it. It did, as the sun rose higher. Myra's eyes slowly closed, not from pain, but from memory. Her mind drifted back to before the battle. Back when she could walk. Back when she was feared. She was. Once known as the Claw of Neither, a title given only to the best female warriors of her species. Myra had trained since childhood. Sword, hand-to-hand, plasma rifles, she mastered them all. Her body had been a weapon. And her heart? Cold as stone. Love, kindness, comfort, those were weaknesses in Nithan culture. A warrior needed no hand to hold, no voice to whisper hope. Just orders, pain, and victory. She had believed in that. She had lived for it. Until the fall. Her squad had entered a trap. Explosives hit them from all sides. She shielded her commander with her own body, saved him. But when the smoke cleared, her legs no longer moved. And her reward? He left her behind. No. Final words. No look back, only the silence of betrayal. She remembered lying there, hearing the retreating footsteps, thinking, is this what I fought for? Her own people had judged her by strength. Once she had none, she was nothing. But now this human, this stranger had done more than any of them. He carried her. He spoke to her. He gave her a name again. Myra opened her eyes as Luke stopped near a half-destroyed building. He climbed to the top, scanning the horizon with a small device. She watched from the ground, her thoughts heavy. Why did he care? What was driving him? Luke returned minutes later. Storms coming from the east, he said, pointing at the sky. We'll need cover. He dragged the sled into the remains of a broken dome, setting up a small barrier using shattered panels. He placed Myra near the wall, out of the wind. As he sat beside her, she studied him. His hands were bruised, his armor cracked. His eyes had dark circles under them. Still, he smiled. Almost there, Myra, he said softly. Then he did something she didn't expect. He took a strip of cloth and dipped it into water. Slowly, gently, he cleaned the dirt from her face, her cheek, her forehead. His hands were careful, his eyes respectful. Her body didn't move, but her mind did. She remembered her first injury in training, how the medics ignored her pain, telling her to rise or be forgotten. No one had ever touched her like this before, not with care, not with warmth. Why? She whispered. Luke looked up. What? Why? Me? She asked. Her voice was weak but clear. He paused, then sat back. Because you're still alive, he said after a long silence. And I don't leave people behind, even if they're not human. That answer struck something deep inside her. Not human, yet still worthy. That was new. That was. Different. Rain started falling outside. Light at first, then heavier. Thunder rolled in the distance. Luke set up a thin heat barrier around them to keep the cold away. Then he did something more surprising. He leaned back beside her and closed his eyes, just for a moment. Not sleeping, just resting. Myra looked at him. This was not a warrior's way. This was not how enemies behaved. This was something else. Connection. Respect. Maybe even something she couldn't name yet. The fire that had long died in her heart sparked. Again. She didn't know if she would ever walk. She didn't know if she would survive. But she knew one thing now. She would not give up. Not while this human still pulled her forward. Asterisk. The rain fell harder now. The broken dome offered little shelter, but Luke made it work. He reinforced the metal panels with rope and thermal sheets. The heat field buzzed quietly, keeping the chill away from Myra's weak body. She watched him move fast, focused, always thinking that it had been 2 days since he found her, that 2 days of dragging her through wreckage, 2 days of feeding her, protecting her, speaking to her like she mattered. She still couldn't move much. Only her arms twitched faintly. But something inside her had changed. Her eyes stayed sharper now. Her voice, though quiet, held strength again. Outside, something growled. It was distant, but closer than before. Luke froze. He grabbed his weapon and peered through the cracked metal. Myra knew that sound. Stalkers. Fast. Four-legged hunters, silent, smart, and deadly. They followed blood. They ate anything too weak to run. She had faced them once in full armor. Now she was bait. Luke returned to her side, his face serious. They're tracking us, he whispered. 3, maybe 4. They're keeping distance. He didn't panic. He didn't run, but he tightened the sled straps, checked his rifle twice. And when the rain slowed just enough, he stood. We're moving. Can't stay here. He pulled the sled back out into the mud. The storm left puddles and deep grooves. The terrain grew worse, and the trees now watched like silent giants, dark shapes, full of whispers. Myra felt her heart beating faster. She couldn't fight, couldn't scream, but she could think. She turned her head and looked around. Then she saw it. Above, a ridge barely visible, was a broken tower. A long antenna stuck out from the top, like a finger reaching toward the stars. She tapped the sled with her finger. Luke turned. She pointed. He looked up, saw the tower, and smiled. Signal relay, he said. If it's still working. They changed course. It took nearly an hour to reach it. Luke climbed carefully, checking every step. The stalkers were behind them now. Not close, but not far. At the base of the tower, he found a power box. Dead, he muttered. But he opened a small pack from his belt. Inside was a portable power cell. 1 charge left. He looked at Myra. Then he plugged it in. The relay tower hummed softly. Lights blinked. The screen glowed. Luke tapped fast, fingers flying across the interface. Emergency signal. Distress beacon. Come on. Beep. Signal sent. He sighed and slid down the wall, finally resting. They had a chance now, but it wasn't over. The growl came again, this time closer. Too close. Luke jumped to his feet and raised his weapon. From the trees, red eyes glowed. Then came the first stalker. Fast, sharp, silent. Luke fired. A blast hit it in the side, throwing it into a rock. A second one charged. He turned and shot again. Missed. The third came from behind. Myra screamed. It was the first full sound she had made in days. The stalker froze. Luke turned and shot it clean through the head. 3 down. But there was one more, and it was smart. It didn't attack. It circled. Waiting. Luke pulled Myra's sled close and stood in front of her. Weapon ready? She watched his back again, watched him breathe, watched him protect. And inside her, something burst open. A memory. A training moment long. Ajib was told, even a broken blade can still cut if the fire is strong enough. Her fingers twitched harder. She clenched her fist. Pain screamed up her arm, but she moved. Luke stepped forward to bait. The last stalker. It leapt. At the same moment, Mira's hand reached for a metal shard near her sled. She grabbed it. And as this stalker landed on Luke, she threw the shard. It cut the beast's leg, drawing blood. Luke rolled away and fired one last time straight into its chest. Silence returned. Luke turned to her, eyes wide. You moved. She nodded, just once. I did, she whispered. For the first time, she didn't feel broken. She felt alive. Asterisk. The air was thick with smoke and silence. 4 stalkers now lay still among the broken trees, their blood mixing with the rain. Myra's fingers trembled, still curled from gripping the metal shard. She had never imagined she could move again. Not after the pain, not after the betrayal, but she had moved, and it had saved him. Luke stood beside her, breath heavy, eyes still scanning the forest. Then he turned to her and gave a quiet, proud smile. "You're a fighter," he said, still in there. She looked down at her hand. It shook, but it had obeyed her will. Her fire wasn't gone. Only buried. Luke checked the beacon again. The signal was steady now, but help was still hours away. "We need higher ground," he said. "Extraction won't happen here." He scouted ahead and found a path through the ridge. Myra's sled rolled smoother now, thanks to adjustments he made using spare drone wheels. He even built a backrest from shattered hull panels. They moved. Slowly, carefully, but the forest changed, not the trees grew stranger. Their trunks were smooth and pale. The ground felt too flat, too perfect. Luke slowed. His eyes narrowed. Something was wrong. Then he saw it. Half buried in dirt was a glowing panel with old alien symbols. A broken sensor, cracked and worn, but still active. He stopped instantly. His foot hovered above the ground. "Minefield," he whispered. He stepped back slow and steady, but just as he turned, a sharp beep echoed beneath his boot. Click. His body froze. Myra saw his face shift. He was standing. On a trigger, she opened her mouth, but no sound came. Luke glanced at her. His smile was calm, too calm. "Looks like I messed up," he said softly. He reached down, trying to steady his leg. The mine made a soft, whirring sound. Myra's heart pounded. No, not like this. She tried to move again. Her hand reached out this time, not from instinct, but from fire. Her fingers grabbed a long vine behind her sled. She wrapped it around her arm, and with pain running through every bone, she pulled herself off the sled. Her body screamed. Her back burned, but she moved. She dragged herself toward him, inch by inch, arms shaking, face sweating. Luke watched in shock. "Myra, what are you doing?" She ignored him. Her arms bled from sharp roots. Her chest pressed against cold stone. But her eyes stayed locked on him. Closer. Closer. Then she reached his foot. She looked down, saw the trigger panel. Old. Tech. And why then design. She had trained with it. Slowly, with her fingers twitching, she reached behind the panel. Her hand slipped once, then again. Luke didn't breathe. She closed her eyes, found the lock wire, and yanked. Click. The sound stopped. Luke stepped off the plate. It didn't explode. He stared at her in disbelief. "You knew how to disarm it?" She collapsed beside him, breath shaking. "Warrior, not just weapon," she whispered. He kneeled and lifted her into his arms. This time, she didn't feel weak. She felt like a soldier again, like someone who had just saved her comrade. Luke placed her back onto the sled gently and smiled. "You saved my life, Myra." She looked at him, really looked at him. This wasn't just a human, not just a rescuer. He was her first real friend, and for the first time in her life, she wanted to live for something more than duty. She wanted to live for him. They moved again, slowly navigating the edge of the minefield. Each time, Luke took a step. Myra guided him. Her knowledge of the trap zone was their path forward. Together, they made it through. The skies opened above them, and in the distance, a faint sound echoed. Engines. Rescue was coming. But in that moment, even surrounded by ruin and danger, Myra didn't think about war or pain. She thought about one thing: Fire inside her was burning again, and nothing, not her broken body, not the silence of her people, not even death, would stop it now. The rescue ship came just as the second storm rolled across the sky. Its engines roared above the trees, blowing away dust and broken leaves. A bright light beamed down onto the ridge where Luke stood beside Myra, shielding her from the wind with his own body. Soldiers in black armor jumped out, weapons drawn, ready for battle. But there was no enemy left, only a paralyzed alien warrior, and a human who refused to leave her behind. Luke raised one hand. "Friendly," he shouted. The soldiers paused. One of them stepped forward, a commander with sharp eyes. "Is that Nathan?" he asked, pointing at Myra. Luke nodded. "She's not a threat. She's with me." The soldiers exchanged confused looks. Then the commander gave a slow nod. "Understood. Bring them both." They helped lift Myra gently into a med transport pod. For the first time, she saw humans working together, not with fear, but with care. They didn't treat her like a prisoner. They treated her like she belonged. Inside the ship, Luke stayed beside her. The medics attached scanners and monitors. One looked up in surprise. "Her spine is repairable with cybernetic support," he said, "but it will take time." Myra didn't care about time. She had already waited too long. Weeks passed. Myra was taken to a human base on a green planet with clear skies and silver towers. Their tech was advanced, clean, smooth, and efficient. She was given a room, not a cell, a real room, with light, warmth, and silence. Every day, they worked on her back. Her arms regained strength first, then her hands, then the lower muscles. Pain became part of her again, but this time, it wasn't helpless. It was healing. Luke visited her every day, sometimes with stories, sometimes with food she couldn't pronounce, sometimes just to sit quietly, as if his presence alone reminded her, "You're not forgotten." And then came the day. She stood. Her legs shook. Her arms trembled. But she stood, with cybernetic support around her spine and braces on her knees. She took 3 steps, then 5, then 10. Luke clapped once and smiled. "Told you you'd get back up." She looked down at her feet, then at her reflection in the glass. She didn't see the broken warrior anymore. She saw someone new, someone stronger. Someone reborn. Later, the human commander offered her a choice. "You're free to leave," he said, "or stay. Help us. We could use someone with your skill." Myra looked out the window at the stars. Her people had left her to die. This world gave her a second life. She turned toward Luke, who waited silently by the door. Then she faced the commander. "I stay." Months passed. She trained again, but differently. This time, no anger, no pressure to prove herself, just focus, purpose. She sparred with humans. She studied their ways. She taught them hers. And when a new threat appeared on a distant colony, an ambush from unknown forces, she asked to go. They said yes. This time, she didn't need a sled. She walked into the ship on her own. Helmet on, back straight, weapon ready. But something was different. She wasn't just a fighter. Now, she was hope. For both species. The ship launched into the stars. And as she sat beside Luke in the dropship, their shoulders touching lightly, she turned to him and said something she had never said before. "Thank you for not giving up on me." Luke smiled. "I never will." The galaxy would one day speak of a Nathan warrior who rose from ruin, who stood beside humans, who fought not for glory, but for loyalty, and for a bond that crossed species in silence. She had been left to die. But now she lived louder than ever. Because one human stepped into her darkness and gave her a reason to rise. Asterisk, asterisk.